Collaboration amongst stakeholders, counties, communities, policymakers, and organizations like Grid United are essential to implementation of all of the above solutions to energy and efficiency we've been talking about today. So to explore this further, let's welcome the City of Billings Council member, Bill Kennedy, Executive Director of the Southeastern Montana Development Corporation, Jim Atchison, Vice President Jen Gallmeyer from Great Falls Montana Development Alliance, and our own Todd O'Hare, President and CEO of the Montana Chamber.
Well, you're doing great. You've hung in here through a very long day. We're just about there. We've kind of started at kind of a micro level, and then we've worked kind of into a state level, and now we want to kind of drill down into some of the specifics at the local level. And so much of what our future depends upon as it relates to energy development and business growth happens at the local level. And so we wanted to spend a few minutes here talking a little bit about what some of our local leaders are doing, what they're seeing in this space. And Michael Skelly is going to join us again here because I think he can give us some perspective of how he's finding life as he interacts with various local governments across various sort of jurisdictions. So thank you again. And I want to start with a longtime friend of mine, Bill Kennedy. Bill and I have known each other a very long time. In fact, I'm going to do this, okay? Because so Bill told me here just a few minutes ago, he's like, I had a hard time finding the comments. And he stopped at like a gas station asking for directions, stopped some homeless person on the street wanting to know if they knew where this was, and like was asking people for directions. This thing, I was like, good grief, Bill. I mean, do you not have Google Maps? I mean, are you so archaic here that you're reduced to like asking strangers for directions to this? Like, do you have a map that you have folded out on your desk? But you made it, Bill. Thank you.
I made it, and I had the map out. But there was about 3 people we asked over at the gas station. They didn't know where this was.
Well, that's why they've got this Google Maps things. It's great.
Nobody at gas stations knows anything anymore.
So, Bill, you've served in Montana politics, particularly on the local level, for a very long time. County commissioner, city councilman, in the state's largest metropolitan area, Billings, still the economic engine of the state of Montana with what goes on there in Billings. Can you tell us a little bit about what you see happening as far as infrastructure, policy that you're trying to pursue, the importance of energy and electricity, reliability, affordability as it relates to like growing and maintaining Billings and Yellowstone County sort of strength in the economic driver's seat?
Sure. I've been on local government for the last 26 years. I've served on the commission for 24 and the last 2 years on the city council. I just want to say one thing. Billings and Yellowstone County is open for business. And we have 3 refineries. We have a sugar beet factory, Western Sugar, that's in full mode right now. We have a $1 billion Intermountain Health that's being built, the new hospital. We have 2 hospitals. Billings Clinic just finished theirs. There's a need for infrastructure, and we have 123,000 people, and it keeps on growing. We have a growth rate of 2 to 3% in Billings and Yellowstone County. Why is it so important? We just are building 2 reservoirs west of town, which we talked about for 25 years. We're building it. We're going to have a new water plant out there. Why does energy play a big part? Our refineries, our businesses in the community. Our local community needs energy. Our local residents need energy. No one wants to go back and watch what happened. Remember the 80s when we saw brownouts across the country. We want to be able to get our computers up, watch our TV. We want lights on. And especially in our community, you want the lights on for safety. What happens if we're not promoting? And we are the hub of energy. We have the 3 refineries, but we're north of all the coal down in the Hardin region. We're east of Colstrip. And I just want to tell you a quick story. I got a job down in Colstrip back in 1981 as a teacher. They offered me $50 a month to live in the teacherage. And I said, that's great, but why is it so cheap? They said, because you have a coal furnace. I said, coal, gas, no big deal. I'm a city kid. Got down there, nearly froze for the first month. I learned how to bank coal. I had one of the hottest places around. I survived the winter. And I would go down and it would take me an hour to fill a ton of coal in the back of the truck. And why I say that is because most people don't understand the industry, but they do understand that you put your plug in the wall and you get your energy out of it. So what we're doing is in Yellowstone County, we have growth, we need the energy. And it's a double whammy for our residents. When rates go up, when energy is scarce and we're paying higher prices, why it's a double whammy is because our public utilities use a lot of energy. So our ratepayers are paying from the city because we pass it on, from their own households because that's what they get there, they pay their energy bills. So how do we help the people in our community? By offering to promote energy out of our community. Like I said, we're open for business. We'd love you to come here, and we'd love you to come to Billings and see what we have to offer. Work with us, work with the city council, and see what we can do. We've kept these 3 refineries going. There was many tax incentives that we've given them and worked with them. So the energy industry is not something new to us. The energy industry is something that's always been in our backyard for a long time. So as a local elected official, what we'd like you to know is Montana is open. We are open for business. And Billings, the largest growing city in the state, is always open. So come and see us.
Briefly, the Yellowstone Generating Station, like electricity generation, energy development as a whole has been really important to that region. You have long supported that natural gas plant that Northwestern Energy is putting in there.
Yes. Actually, when I was running for office for the city council, I've been working with the electricians. And the big thing is, they said, is there anything you can do? We're losing work. And the IBEW was in full swing. They were ready, they were slated, got it off the ground, they went out there. These are jobs. And in our community, jobs mean a lot. And so that plant is a great plant. I was county commissioner. There was nothing in that area. It's perfect. And it creates a lot of energy in that area. So we do welcome it. There's some people that don't, but we do welcome it. The council has been very open about it and wanting it here.
Right, thanks, Bill. So, Michael, you touched on some of these sort of points during your remarks about your commitment to the community and the work that you do in the local government sort of space. And I think you also touched a little bit about the importance that you see Montana for this sort of energy juncture. I'll throw both of those at you if you want to take just a couple of minutes. Pick either one of those that you want to expand a little bit more on here now that I've kind of pinned you down, but feel free.
So let me just talk about the approach to development. And as I mentioned, it is tough to build things these days. So you really got to go the extra mile. You really got to convince people that what you're doing makes sense, and you have to connect it with their lives, and you have to make it make sense not just for them, but for their community. Often from landowners, we'll get the question of like, okay, I'm okay with this. What do my neighbors say? So you got to make sure you're talking to their neighbors. And then we think of it as sort of an inverted pyramid, if you will. Normally you think like, okay, well, let's get a federal approval and then a state approval and county and so on. We think it's sort of the opposite of that, like work locally and then kind of work your way up. Because if you have good local support, that turns into good county support to state support and so on. And then we do, we try to do things like we work closely with the North Dakota Community Foundation and Montana Community Foundation, and we have like a little grants program where we give the money to them and then they figure out what to do at the local level. So we don't weigh in on like, this is what a project that makes sense in this particular county, because like it's not our county, it's their county. So, and the folks at these community foundations are much closer to what community needs might be than we would ever be. So we find that's a program that we sort of worked with stakeholders to come up with here in Montana, North Dakota, and we've rolled it out across our portfolio of projects around the country. And then I guess from sort of a energy hub perspective, like, look, we do not, anybody who tells you that this is what electric power generation is going to look like in 2050 in the United States of America is lying. They don't know, okay? But, and Montana has seen all of this. They've started with hydro, coal, gas, wind, solar. You've seen it all. And we don't know what it's going to look like in 2050. It might be nuclear, it might be whatever. But we do know that we need the infrastructure for whatever type of electric power we use. And I think there's sort of a general awareness of the fact that if you look at sort of the use of how energy gets consumed at its point of consumption, that percentage was like 20%-ish electric power 100 years ago, and every year it goes up a little bit. So the economy gets more and more electrified, and now we're getting close to 70%. Now, the inputs to get the electricity change, but the output in terms of like how we use electricity from the wall, or it is increasingly electric. So your house might be, it's probably not coal-fired anymore. It might be coal-fired indirectly, and then it gets to your house through the grid and so on. So that phenomena is going to be with us for a very long time to come.
And what a great segue for a guy like Jim Atchison, right? You're in the heart of coal country, Colstrip, Montana, right? That facility there, Colstrip units 1, 2, 3, and 4, I mean, they've been the heart of that community for a very, very long time. And yet, you guys in Colstrip aren't looking at this necessarily from the lens that this just has to be a coal community going forward. You're looking at this more from, there's an energy perspective here, regardless of what the electrons, where they come from, we can be a hub going forward. Give us a little talk about what you're seeing and what you're working on there in Colstrip.
Yeah, thank you, Todd, for that. Just certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here today, and it's very humbling and to be in front of all of our colleagues here. But we run a regional nonprofit economic development group out of Colstrip. I've been there since 2001. Southeastern Montana Development is a regional nonprofit economic development group that was founded in '97, primarily from the downsizing of Colstrip back in the mid-'90s. And so energy is in our DNA in that community. And so we're very fortunate to have that. And by the way, I wanted to say, as the stars are lining up in Colstrip, I appreciate the tribute to Senator Dwayne Ankeny earlier today, because he's certainly a heavy star in this whole effort and a big part of the success of Colstrip. So as an economic development group, we have a lot of tools in our toolbox to do things, just like a teacher or a fireman or a police officer has. And one of the tools in our toolbox, besides the numerous ones, is planning. It's not very fun and exciting, but it's kind of the foundation of a lot of things that come later. And proactive planning is so much less expensive than reacting to a disaster later. So one of the things that we do is a SEDS document, and we go out religiously every year and listen to our 7 communities. We listen to what they're saying, and we record it. We don't get into debate of who's going to pay for it, and well, that's a silly idea, or that kind of thing. But and we record that. And back in 2015, 10 years ago, this fall, the folks of Colstrip got really nervous because of the Clean Power Plan that was just proposed by President Obama's administration. And many of us remember that panic throughout the energy industry, especially in Colstrip. And so they challenged my group to go out and diversify. And of course, Colstrip has 1 horse in the barn. We need to find 2 or 3 more horses to put in the barn. And okay, we'll figure out how to do this. So we went and hired some professionals, found the money to do that. 2 years later, in the spring of 2017, our Colstrip Economic Development Strategy came out. And since that day, 8 years ago, it just seems like last week, we have been pedal to the metal, nonstop, finding solutions to these things in here. And a couple big things there. 6 goals, 17 strategies were identified, and it wasn't dig more coal, burn more coal, but things like, Jim, we need more broadband capacity in Colstrip. Fiber optics, which we did not have at the time, and other things like that. And so even though energy is very important in Colstrip, the folks could see that they needed to diversify. So we went around, and thank goodness to the state of Montana and Range Telephone and Representative Perry, we were able to bring in 10 million of fiber optics into Colstrip last year. It took 7 years to get it there. And Forsyth was able to receive about 8 million. And so little by little, some of these rural communities are getting fiber optics. And that was a big thing because a lot of people since COVID are now looking to retire in some of these small, safe, clean communities. And if you have connectivity, of course. And so people are actually moving into Miles City and Forsyth and Colstrip, setting up remote businesses or flat retiring because of the value there. And so we're very excited about that. As this thing progressed, there was 4 major tasks or projects that came out of it, besides the broadband one. Another one was a regional marketing campaign because, quite frankly, we were sick and tired of the negative and blatant lies about the coal industry and Colstrip and the pollution and all of that. So we created that, and actually, because of that, we've recruited a few people into town and some small businesses as well. That will continue, by the way. We've paid for a preliminary engineering study for an industrial park because if a company like Grid United wants to come and set up shop, there isn't really a place to do that yet. But I'll tell you, Mike, if as you come, we have that going.
We'll get you some power. I know you got plenty, but we'll get you even more.
Yeah, that's awesome because the third one is the Business Innovation Center because we're building that as we speak. February will be the grand opening there, and that building, about 6,800 square feet, $4 million in grant funds, will be open. And we'll have a maker space in there, entrepreneurship, training, co-working spaces, conference areas. We didn't really have that before in Colstrip. And so that's just an exciting addition to that coal community, which is one of maybe a handful around the country, Todd, that is finding innovative solutions to diversify and recreate itself. Kimmer, Wyoming, Craig, Colorado, Centralia, Washington, Northern Arizona, and I think there's a couple in West Virginia as well. And so there's a handful of us that refuse to close, and we're going to reinvigorate that community. And so it's very exciting there. And during this process, a concept came up, just like value-added ag, which our state is worldwide famous for. We came up with an opportunity called value-added energy commercialization opportunities, looking at some of these waste streams that are available to us today. Instead of a problem, as a lemon, what lemonade can we make out of that lemon? And of course, we have rare earth elements that are available in coal ash, and we have plenty of coal ash, folks. And we need to do something with it, as the DEQ knows, and we think, and there's one company, Montana Critical Metals, that is working with Talon to look at economically processing that coal ash and bring out at least 5 rare earth elements, and hopefully we'll process it in eastern Montana and create another sub-industry there worth hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. I think that would be absolutely fantastic for the environment and of course, the economy. So planning is very exciting. Flue gas capture and creating biodegradable project or services and products out of the waste stream that goes up the stacks. We're very excited about that as well. So it all starts with planning, but we're very excited about the future in Colstrip and look forward to that. So more to follow.
Great, thanks for that update, Jim. As we look more towards the central part of the state, lots of talk about Bozeman and the western part of the state, but Great Falls is seeing some change, right? You're seeing some investment in Great Falls, and it appears that you're starting to position yourself as a bit of as an energy hub yourself, right? And I think we've got the folks from Berkshire Hathaway Energy that would be a testament to, like, they see the value of that region for energy investment and development. Jen, can you tell us a little bit about some of the strategies that you have worked on there in that Great Falls area to try to become this sort of attractant for energy investment in your area?
Yes, so we do see Great Falls as a substantial hub for the state of Montana. We do have 5 hydroelectric dams. We are the home of the largest producer of sustainable aviation fuel in North America, Montana Renewables. And we made the pursuing of opportunities in utilizing our natural resources to produce more energy, part of our economic development strategy very recently, probably within the last 2 years. And so we invested in a market assessment last year, and the findings of that show that there was significant opportunities in our region for increased energy production. And so we hired somebody on our team, sorry, I'm so sorry. We hired somebody on our team to pursue those opportunities and facilitate those opportunities. And so she's doing that. And we're also working with the Air Force Base so that we can avoid any defense mission conflicts. We're also continuing to support the Montana Renewables expansion and sourcing of feedstock. And we're going to continue supporting Berkshire Hathaway Energy expansion projects and any other projects that move into our region. But basically, there's a lot of opportunity in the north central Montana area. And it's not just one type of energy. I mean, it's like the governor's all above approach. And the market assessments that we have commissioned, I believe we have 4, and they're all on our website. And it's, wind, solar, hydro. I mean, they're all over the place. So, and our team is willing to work with anybody who comes to our door. So.
Great. Well, this isn't directly related to this, but housing has become a big issue in Montana, right? Everybody's talking about affordable housing, and if you're talking about significant investment in energy infrastructure and energy development, right, you're going to have homes for people to live in. But I think we've got 3 communities that are represented up here that may have a little different perspective on what the housing situation is like in their community compared to what we hear elsewhere. Bill, what's housing look like in Yellowstone County?
In Yellowstone County, the council just initiated an affordable housing unit in the Heights, but we have growth on the west end all over the city of Billings with multifamily living, homes reaching out. We're almost, that's why we built the reservoir and we're working on the water plant in west part of Billings. Home ownership, I think the average is probably about $300,000 to $350,000 for a home, which is not bad compared to a lot of other places in Montana. It's and jobs. We're always there's all kinds of jobs, from the medical corridor to the financial to the different areas. So this is it's a good place to live.
Great. Jim?
Well, housing
look like
is,
there?
what's that?
What does it look like down there in Colstrip?
Well, I'll tell you, it's becoming an issue, yeah. And I don't know if we have one fancy solution to it, but I've been there 20-some years, and it's been about 2,300 to 2,100 population. So, but we've seen recently issues there because in fact, throughout eastern Montana, there hasn't been a lot of new construction. It's an aging inventory, and of course, supply and demand, and all of a sudden you have demand, prices go up, and people can't believe that they're spending that much kind of money for a house anymore. So the good thing about Colstrip specifically is back in the 80s, that community had 8,500 population during the boom years of 3 and 4 units being constructed. So we have the space. The city and the county have put a lot of investment back into water and sewer and streets and things. So if we have a significant energy development like a Grid United or another NextEra thing or a nuclear plant or that kind of instant growth, I think we could handle it, but it'd be pretty quick. But in some of the smaller communities in my area, it's getting to be an issue, yes.
Jen, how's things look in Great Falls?
I can tell you housing is our #1 priority. We have a major shortage of it. We actually have data to back this up too. All of our work is driven by data. We know that in order to keep up with our demand, we need 650 new units of housing to be built every year over the next 10 years just to keep up with our existing demand. And that number doesn't even take into account the Sentinel project that is going to be coming through with the military. So, you know, and we're not even anywhere close to that number right now. So we don't have any large-scale housing developers in Great Falls. And so it's really hard to grow when you don't have homes for people to live in. So that, I would say, is our #1 priority. And we're making progress, but, you know, it's tough. And I would say our thing we have going for us is our affordability compared to other major communities in Montana. We are one of the most affordable places. So that is attractive and that does help. But still, I mean, we do need more housing built.
Good news stories across the state. And so I want to thank you all again for joining us here today and giving us a perspective from a local government and how we work with local governments and local communities in developing energy. So please join me in thanking our panel for joining us here today.
There were definitely some great little nuggets that would go towards those golden gooses in that session right there. Or geese, I should say. Especially with Jim with proactive planning and Michael with his intense focus on stakeholders. I think any project that starts with those two things is going to be successful in our state.